First of all, thanks for the opportunity to respond. I think clearly there's some politics going off in part, and I'm not going to respond to the politics. I have a duty to look after the people who I lead, and therefore, if they raise something with me, I have a responsibility to listen to their concerns and then to review what they tell me and see whether it's accurate or see whether there is a way to deal with that. And that's what we started doing a few weeks ago. Now, the point was made about, it was raised on the Nick Ferrari show, and Joanne said, did I have notice of the question? I didn't. I hope I made clear, perhaps I didn't at the beginning, but it was one of our armed response vehicle drivers who was on the route to Harrow on Saturday who rang. I didn't know he was ringing. I gave an honest reply to as far as I could see, a straight question. Now, that runs certain risks, as John has said, but I suppose what you will get from me is a straight response and not one of a politician. And all I said, I think...
excuse me, that is deeply insulting.
Offensive, Chair.
Would you please take that back? That is deeply insulting.
It's really rude.
How dare you suggest that politicians don't give straight answers? Oh, why don't you shut up so we can speak? That is absolutely disgraceful, Chair.
I think I've been allowed to finish my sentence. You would have heard the rest. So if I was allowed to finish my sentence, then you might be able to respond.
If we allow the Commissioner to respond, and then you'll come back on the points of interest.
All right.
It's fairly straightforward, and if I present it inelegantly, then that's my responsibility. But what I was trying to say is you'll get a straight answer to a straight question. I won't try and dissemble. I won't try and give you a policy that you might prefer that I told you about. You'll hear what I think at the time. Now, that has its risks, and I'm probably experiencing the consequences of it. But I prefer me to be as I am, not to play some political game. So that's the only point I'm making. And if it was inelegant, I take the feedback, but I'm not changing my point.
Quite right.
Now, in terms of what I was dealing with here, we did have a series of events. Well, we had some terrible injuries to police officers over the weekend. And I have to respond to that event. Now, I gave a straight answer to a straight question on the Monday. It wasn't an announcement of a new change of policy. It was an announcement that was prepared to review our present one. Now, I take the point that there's been an awful lot of work carried out over the last few years, and it has been a sensitive issue in London. I acknowledge that. I have to say the same types of debate went on around the rest of the country. It was not unique here. And there were similar safeguards put in place, and I think the evidence shows, in fact, taser has not proved to be the terrible thing that everybody at least was concerned about. But I think that's a damn good reason why it needs to be introduced carefully with all the measures that were put in place and all the monitoring that was there. Now, in answer to the question, should we have it more widely available, then I said I thought it should be more widely available, and I gave a series of options as to what that could look like. So at one extreme, you could give it to every officer in every car, and at the other extreme, you could have one more car per borough to do it. The only one that was reported, as can happen, is that, in fact, the one in every car to 6,000 cars. I respect the fact it's an accurate account of what I said. I don't think it's a fair representation of what I meant, but that's what happened. Now, in terms of how we go forward, I just want to distinguish tasers from some of the other things that were raised in the same debate. Now, the first one was raised was rubber bullets. I know there's a question later in the meeting about that. The reason that is raised is because of a comment that a commander made in preparations for the student protest. And again, he answered a straight question with an honest reply. Rubber bullets are no more available today, nor has our policy changed compared to the day before he mentioned it. During the last year, we've actually authorised the movement of rubber bullets, I think it's on 22 days, because there's a reasonable preparation if we expect there may be some risks of a problem. Those baton rounds, which is what they are more properly called, are only available because the government allows us to have them. They are licensed, and they're only available within the police service. They're only available within the police service because the law says that they're available. Those haven't been discharged on the UK mainland as long as they've existed. They've actually been they have been discharged in Northern Ireland, where of course the circumstances are quite different. And if you realise the only reason we're talking about this, together with water cannon, was because the political response to the police's failure to control that riot in Tottenham was other things needed to be considered. So that is the reason. That is the reason.
Can I stop you for one moment? I'm sorry. It is becoming very difficult to conduct a debate. Can I ask you, please, to respect people's views? You've had your opportunity to speak. I'm going to be in your hands as to whether we do something about the disruption or not.
Just continue.
So, okay. Can I ask you whether we should ask the people who are disrupting the meeting to leave?
Yes, they should get a warning, and if they continue to disrupt the meeting, they should be asked to leave.
You've heard what members are saying. I think all of us are feeling that we're being disrupted here. So, please.
This is not disruption.
Pardon?
This is not disruption. Disruption's a lot more serious.
So we're happy.
What I would suggest is that colleagues speak a bit louder so we can all hear them.
This is disruption, pure and simple.
You've
You've got young people over there trying to observe this.
That's right. Let's just carry on and talk a little bit more assertively so our views and voices can be heard.
I do think.
And then everybody can hear
I
them.
think while the young people are here, maybe you could respect their visit.
They need to see what democracy is.
Okay, we're going to continue with our debate. It's impossible to have a debate.
It's just going to get worse now.
Now disrupted.
Chair, at this point we are disrupting the meeting ourselves by discussing this.
Yes.
It seems to me I would like to ask people in the gallery to make it a little easier for us to have our discussions. But Jenny already made the point that demonstrations are sometimes noisy, and I think that that's kind of life. But it would help to enable us to discuss matters without too much disruption. But we recognise people have opinions and they're going to express them.
Right, just to recap, in terms of the baton rounds, the reason that was discussed was because of the Commander's comments prior to the student protest march. Yep. I think all he stated was he answered an honest question, a straight question, honestly and openly, but probably if he had been more political or politic, he would probably said, no, there is no change, because there is no change. There's nothing's changed since before the protest, what he said, than afterwards. In terms of the water cannon, the only reason that's been discussed is because after the riots, central government challenged the Met and others about how they'd responded and had they considered all options to see whether or not they should be more available. So that's the only reason that's been discussed. And to run the three together, I think, is both inaccurate and wrong. So I'll say that straight. But in terms of tasers, I do recognise that there is a debate to have, and that's what I think we're in the process of starting. It may not have been the most structured start, and I take the point about communicating with people after the programme, but frankly I think the story got out before probably we could have sent an email, but that's my responsibility, for which I take full responsibility. If I had no notice the question was coming, we were doing a careful piece of work which you would have brought back to the authority at a later time.
Quite a few items on our agenda, but I know Jenny and Dee would like to come back on what the Commissioner said.
Commissioner, you just accused politicians of lying, and now that might be something that it goes down very well in the Met, but it doesn't go down very well in a chamber with our elected people. It wasn't inelegant, it was downright rude of you, and I think you actually owe an apology to all the elected people around the table. We do not play political games. We care about London. We want the Met to own up to its responsibilities, and we really do not want to be we really don't want a commissioner who has never been elected in his life to anything to actually sit here and tell us that we lie. That's so offensive.
Well, I certainly didn't hear you say that we lied. What I did hear you say is that you're a straight talker, but I think you might agree that I too am a straight talker, and I don't play political games, and I take the greatest exception to the suggestion that we, as politicians, do. I absolutely accept that you were under pressure from some members of central government who came out with knee-jerk reactions immediately after the tragic circumstances that happened earlier this year, but I do not think that that is a good excuse in order to go the opposite direction and play the macho man. I'm not suggesting you did, but certainly when I watched one of your officers on TV making the point about, and I quote, We are going, whereas my quotation has vanished, we are going to use, plastic bullets have been authorised should the need arise. Now, I totally accept what you've said, is that it's not that simple, and it couldn't have happened instantly, but I've been a member of this authority for 7 years. I didn't know that. I'm sure the great British public didn't know that, so I would suggest that whoever was playing Macho Man on TV should have been more careful about what they were saying, and it should have been
explained. We're now going to move on. We've got at least another 15 questions from members to go through. Can we move on to the questions, Commissioner? We have to for that to happen now.
I think there's only one thing. I think.
Sorry, Commissioner has just a please.
Just as a matter of fact, I don't think I accuse anybody of lying.